Hey everybody, your old pal Shawn here. This is one of our powerful short clips, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the most potent weapon against bigotry. Now, if you've seen my introduction, you know I consider bigotry, hatred, division to be one of the greatest dangers in our world today. If we can't even talk to each other, we can't address problems. If we look at someone and think they're a demon, we're not going to try and negotiate with them. We're not going to hear what they have to say. We won't be able to discuss different strategies and ways to move the culture in our world forward. But if we can begin to humanize our view of them and humanize their view of us, we can begin to come together and bridge those gaps. We can start to have those conversations that we haven't been having. We can start to understand that our hard edges that we had up to protect us from pain can be softened, can be worn down a little bit, that we can let down our guard and have honest, authentic conversation about what's most important to us. And then from there, evaluate what strategies are best going to serve our shared inner values. But when you're demonizing people and when you're being demonized, there's no way that you can do this because you don't think there are shared values. You have some extreme view about how terrible they are, or they think how terrible we are. We're going to discuss today the most potent weapon against bigotry. But first, remember, this is a small channel at the moment. If you like what we're trying to do, please like, share, subscribe, comment, send it out there. Let us know what you think. I really want to know how this is impacting you or not. What would you like to see? If you have the means, consider looking at our givesendgo.com/SZP. Now, that's out of the way. Let's get started. About 12 years ago, I started talking about this. How can we begin to bridge the gap? How can we unify and connect with the world around us? How is this possible? Well, first, I'm going to give you an oversimplified idea of what I consider part of the problem. Imagine someone grows up in a very friendly and loving and community-based society. So they're born and they're loved and they're held and they're nurtured and they're told that they're so great. They're so wonderful. They're great individuals. They are highly valuable. And they'd like to hear that. And the people that tell them that, their parents, their family, their friends, their teachers, who are treating them this way, well, they feel good around them. So naturally, they're going to feel good about those people because they feel good inside. And they're going to have a certain degree of trust in those voices that are reaching out to them. So, why would they question what they hear? When they're told everyone has the same value at heart. Everyone is one extension of the great life, or a child of God, or a living being, a sentient being who has life and has value. Everyone matters. Why would they question that? Why would they question that? Now let's say someone grows up in a different community. They're born and their parents love them. Their friends treat them well. Their teachers treat them well. They feel very good. But sometimes they hear that there are groups of people who aren't like us. They're different. They're meaner. They're dumber. They're not quite right. There's something wrong with them. And they can't talk to these people because they don't have no thinking. They're just so possessed by their ideas that they're enemies. That there's no negotiating with them because they're already lost. There's nothing you can do. You can't change their mind. You can't convince them of anything. And you could just see them doing destructive things, and then you show them videos of people who could possibly fit this category, being destructive or negative or bitter or ignorant in some way or another. And then you say, this is how the world is. Well, you could tell via the social conditioning, the environment these people grow up in. One person is going to love everybody and think of each other as, oh, that's my brother, my sister from another mother, this is my extended family. And then another one is going to think in terms of safety, of security, of us and them. They're going to have bleak thoughts about people who are not in the in group. And by the way, this happens very easily at school. It doesn't need to even be segregated by race or gender or culture and ethnicity. It could be in a little friend group, like little cliques. Oh, those people over there are weird. Oh, they're fat. Oh, look at them dressing all cringy. And just hating on different groups and pointing. See, they're not like us. And in that group mentality, it's so hard to connect. But we can fight back against this. Understand now that there are, whatever side you're on of whatever issues that are important to you, there are tens of millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions, who have compatible values to you. However, they think of you as a them, just as you maybe think of them as an other. They think it's us and them. Would you just write all those people off because of their current conditioning? Not so fast. Not so fast. I'm going to illustrate this point using some examples. Real quickly, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about a movie called American History X. So if you're going to watch it, don't want it spoiled, just pause this for about 2-3 minutes and then come back to us, all right? So basically the movie starts out with a white supremacist. He's spending quality time with his girlfriend, and then some black people show up. Long story short, there's killing involved. He goes to jail. And he's kind of a hero because in his racist in-group, because he did the greatest thing. He got rid of one of the enemies, the bad people, right? So he goes to jail. He takes off his shirt. He has the swastikas and all this kind of thing. And he's supported by this group of white nationals. But in jail, you have to do work in this particular movie. And he was in charge of, involved with laundry duty. Well, he never did laundry. He didn't know what the fuck he's doing. So he has to learn the job from a black guy. Well, he's not supposed to talk to this guy. But, black guy does his job and he teaches him, oh, here's how you do laundry. Here's how you do this. And, the white supremacist begins to appreciate that. And eventually, they let a joke pass between each other. This whole kind of thing. At the same time, he's getting visited by his one really cool black teacher that he had. And the guy's like reaching out to him and giving him advice and support when his white supremacist buddies aren't visiting him. Anyway, because of this budding connection he has with the black man who showed him how to do laundry in the prison way, and they're laughing, they're joking, they're having a good time, this really offends the white supremacist that he's in a group with in prison. So they basically kick him out in a very hostile manner, I'll say. And the guy is recovering physically, and he's getting visited by the teacher. And I watched this a long time ago, so I don't quite remember exactly how, but eventually, he's in danger. And he has to and he could be killed by this white group that kicked him out. But he talked to the guy who taught him how to do laundry. Hey, can you help me? Can you help me? And eventually, he puts a word in, and the black group is going to give him a certain degree of protection, so the white guys are going to leave him alone. And eventually, somehow, I don't quite remember how, but he gets out of jail, and he doesn't quite fit in with his racist buddies anymore, because yeah, he did the big racist thing, but he's been changed. You see, white people did worse things to him than black people ever did. And black folks, his teacher and his friend, they helped him out. They helped him out over and over again and supported him in such a profound way. And it really began to change how he thinks. I'll give you a real world example, and I shared this a little bit in the introduction, but real quick, Daryl Davis. Well-known musician, better known for something else, being a black man who befriended a Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan over years, tolerating insults and hatred and bigotry and all this kind of thing, slurs of every kind. Eventually starts being allowed to go to Klan rallies, and because he's so cool, because he's willing to listen, because he's willing to give them a demonstration that, hey, all black people don't fit this racist stereotype you have, because he was so cool with them in the face of hatred, in the face of bigotry. It went much better. He managed to get over 200 Klansmen to turn in their robes to him because he was so cool, it made them question everything. So this is beginning to hint towards the most potent weapon against bigotry. And that's through demonstration. It's through being extremely cool with people. Recently, I was having a conversation with someone who's very influential in some circles and growing and beginning to have a more active voice on social issues, wanting to make the world a better place like myself. And she related on an issue she's very passionate about. She was talking with someone who had a completely different life experience and clashed. And they didn't talk about it ever again. And she said, man, I really didn't like how I dealt with that. So one of the things I shared, which she's so smart, she already started to have the idea bloom in her mind. Rehearsal. Well, in martial arts, for example, there's something called sparring, where you would kind of have a fight with somebody, but it's not trying to destroy the person. It's not like a battle against your worst enemy. You're working on something. Are you working on fighting someone who's left-handed, who moves different? Someone who's bigger or taller or faster or stronger? Or do they have a really unique way of moving, in and out, or are they brawlers? Sparring begins to acclimate you, it familiarizes you to a certain type of movement, a certain type of situation. And the idea is, by facing that, you get more comfortable with it. You learn how to deal with it. You learn how to answer. Oh, they have long legs, so I have to keep my distance, move in, move out, or I can try and turn that their kicks into like a grappling scenario, take that away from them, or I can start trying to hurt their legs and take away one of their better weapons. And by being exposed to these different concepts, these different ideas, in a stressful situation, you become better at dealing with it. This is part of the idea. We often like to look at the other side and just send memes about how evil and stupid everyone else on the other side is. Or we'll hear something vaguely about some issue or some case or something that happens, and then we'll kind of play whisper down the alley until we're repeating things that don't have much resemblance to the truth. Or we'll try and remember something that we thought was cool sometime, and we'll like mumble some half-remembered nonsense and go, see, I know better, ha ha ha. Well, guess what? That doesn't make the world better. And I understand there are extremists out there. I understand that there are dangerous people. But there's something that we learned in the history of war. What's that? Well, if there's a terrorist in a building and you blow up the whole building, you got one terrorist and you got 200 different random family members. And all those people who died in that attack, guess what? They're related to people. And some of them are more prone to being radicalized. So when you just hate whole groups because of the acts of some, when you demonize whole groups and just attack them or take them out or lump them all together, you're effectively working to radicalize whole groups against you. That's right, against you. You are making more enemies that way. That's not what Daryl Davis did. Daryl Davis showed another thing. He didn't lump whole groups together and demonize everybody because of the actions of a few. Instead, he showed that they were wrong. And not by standing there and saying, oh, you're wrong, you should do what I say, you should change, stop being a racist, you're a bigot. That's not going to change anybody. Attacks are not going to end bigotry. You know what will? Being really cool. How do you inoculate yourself to this? Well, very simple. If there's an issue that you're really passionate about, don't straw man another person's views. Don't have the meme version of what other people think. Instead, steel man that. Well, how do you do that? You have to develop a really strong idea. What is the best, most concrete, most practical version of the other side's views? I used to call this a titan of titanium, where you would, instead of just having a really weak argument for the other side and then having something you've thought about and studied for years and years smash that weak argument. No. Instead, speak to the fears and the concerns and the ideas and strategies that they have on the other side. With authenticity. With curiosity. How do you do that? Guess what? I have a library. Now, I'm not expecting you to read or listen to 1,000 audiobooks, but here's a way. I have probably 30 books on race. I haven't gotten through them all, but I will. And then I'm going to do a project about it. But I have like 30 books on race. And guess what? There are black thought leaders who have different ideas of what the problems are, different ideas of what the solutions are, and they hate each other. Guess what? I have, 10 books on trans issues or something. And there are different thought leaders who are trans and have completely different ideas on these issues. I have many books on immigration, and there are people who have completely different ideas. I have books on climate change. I have books on diet. And if you have an issue you're really into, instead of just demonizing everybody and just looking at your stuff, creating an echo chamber and talking about how dumb and evil everybody else is, look at the material that's out there on the other side. Be it podcasts, be it interviews, books, videos, TikToks, whatever. Look at it. Read it, listen to it, understand it. What are the strongest views on the other side? What are their real concerns? Because if you're just going to take the scummiest, fringe, extreme version on that side, and imagine everyone else is that person with the most ignorant perspective you can imagine, you're not going to move anything forward. Instead, inoculate yourself to their ideas. If you've never heard an argument before and it's presented to you, it's very easy to get flustered. Oh no, that's not true, that's fake. Relax. If you prepare yourself and, oh, I've heard this argument, I'm very familiar with it. Yeah, and these are your concerns here. Here's why I think that there's a more effective way to do it. And then you address their concerns with your strategy. And then guess what? They feel heard. Guess what? You don't get lumped into other anymore. Guess what? You might have begun to open their hearts and de-radicalize them. And by being in the presence of people and being good at what you do at work, by being fun to be around, by being knowledgeable about the things you talk about, you get to become a demonstration of possibility. You get to be an influence in people's lives, because the better work you do, the more credible you are to them. The more authentic you are with what you know and don't, the more credible you are to them. The cooler you are, the more friendly you are, the more credible you are to them. So when you make a statement, they can be touched. And it carries weight. If you're just some random person who hates on them, it's only going to strengthen their resolve to fight back against you. Instead, you have to win over the hearts and minds. Address their concerns. Yeah, I've never heard that before. Tell me more. And this way, it can prepare you to strengthen your perspective. If you are familiar and can write about or articulate or speak or address the concerns, the values, the strategies that people have to serve their values, you'll begin to understand, hey, they're not so different. They have their own fears. Well, let's face our mutual fears together and move towards a better future. By being a demonstration of possibility, you can begin to erase the idea of bigotry in their hearts. By being that cool person, by being that Daryl Davis kind of figure, you can show, hey, your stereotypes about me and people like me are not accurate. They don't apply to me. They don't apply to other people. What you heard is not right, or at least very, very limited. Let me show you more. And then this begins to open minds and it opens hearts. It is so important to be really fucking cool. I don't mean in the stereotypical too cool for school kind of person. I mean, you're good at what you do. You're reliable. You're consistent. You are fun. You listen. You're not a jerk. But you say what you think. Well, then what you think begins to have weight to them because you matter to them. This is how we begin to win the war against bigotry. This is how we can stand up for what matters to us. This is how you can begin to save the world one smile at a time. Because when you have that smile on your face and you listen to their concerns and you help address them, they can't help but feel better inside. And that's going to help open them up to you even more. And then that puts a little smile on their face. And then it might not last forever. You might have to be a consistent force. Just like being in the cold one day doesn't suddenly get you used to being in the cold. You have to be exposed to it over and over again until your body gets used to that. Well, this is the same concept. By acclimating yourself to the different ideas on the other side, by listening, By hearing their fears, their concerns, their insecurities, their thoughts, you can speak to those. You could point to those. You can say, hey, I see where you're coming from there. You are my brother. You are my sister. You are my family. Now let's address those concerns together. And by addressing their concerns, you can work to address your own concerns, because you have made one less enemy in the world. And then that is somebody who's going to begin to influence others. And gradually the ripple effects are going to make a big difference. Gradually more people are going to think similarly to you. And that's how you move the world in a better direction. That's how we can begin to combat bigotry. Not with the force of arms. Not by demonizing others. Not by calling out the people that we want to hold accountable. It's by being so cool that they have a moment where they have to hold themselves accountable for, oh man, I was wrong. Oh man, I was doing the wrong things. I was thinking the wrong way. By being so cool, so knowledgeable, so skilled at what you do, so credible, you can begin to move the needle. You can begin to shift our culture and our world towards a future we'd all like to have. All right. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more. All right, rock on, party on. This is Shawn, signing out.